Hi guys, and welcome to the channel. But I've heard via some friends that there are a few problems with the belt drive on the Airwolves. Now this particular belt, I've done over 300 hours on this and it's still perfectly okay. As you can see, got no wear on it, and I would be very happy in flying it even. Now the reason that some people, let me rephrase that, I believe that the reason that some people are losing their teeth here, it's got nothing really to do with the design of the belt system as such. If it sits like this, which is the intended purpose, then there's no reason that this belt can't last a very long time. As I said, I've flown over 300 hours on this and it still looks like brand new. What I believe is happening is there is a little belt tensioner over here. I've just stripped this so I can just show it to you easier. And this belt tensioner, although the idea is good, puts a little bit of tension here, it doesn't put enough tension on. That's number one. Number two, I believe that after an hour or two of use from new, the belt stretches slightly. Look, it does have carbon fiber strands inside the belt, like all belts do, so it shouldn't stretch much. It will stretch, but not a lot. The problem is that this belt tensioner that rides over here is not strong enough. That's number one. And number two, after 2 hours or 3 hours of use, the overall tension of the motor and the belt is not sufficient. You will notice on your motor plates, on your frame plates, that there are only two small holes where the motor mounts. Now, those holes, as far as I'm concerned, should be slotted so that you can move the motor. Now, the reason that these teeth are shearing off is because if it doesn't have enough tension on the leading edge, not the trailing edge here, because this is how it sits in the helicopter, like this. If this tension isn't enough, what happens as it turns, the belt starts riding on these teeth here. But at some point, it needs to fit into the groove. So what happens is, as it's turning like this, these teeth of the belt have to slot into here. And by riding on the outside initially, and then being forced into the tooth, they are wearing, because the edges of this part is now wearing out the tooth. So what I'm saying is there's not enough tension on the belt. The first thing I did after running my helicopter for 2 or 3 batteries is I checked the belt, and I noticed that it was doing this. Can you see? It doesn't quite enter the gear like this. If this was the case, if it did this all the time, then you would hardly wear out the belt. As I say, this belt is over 300 hours old, and I'm very confident to fly it. So what I'm saying is, it's nice to have a little tensioner here, but it's just not enough. So you need to slot the motor holes in such a way that you can add tension here, and then put so I would remove the spring that's holding this, or just unhook it, so that this gear belt tensioner just flops around, or it's just one screw. Take it out and get your motor in this position, so that when it turns, just turn it by hand, that it engages the teeth properly. If it's riding on top like this, then you don't have enough tension on the belt. So look, I mean, I've removed this completely, and I've changed it to a gear drive. I'll put a link in the description below, because the gear drive is also 20 to 30% more efficient than this belt drive. But the reason that you're wearing out your teeth is because you are more than likely, you have a loose belt and it rides on the gears like this, and then at some point it has to force itself into here, and then it is wearing out those teeth as it's doing this at the high RPM that it needs to run at. So get your belt tight like this by slotting that motor, pulling it out, tightening it up, and making sure that as it enters the gear, that it's also sitting in the groove properly, just like this now, for instance. And then by all means put your little tensioner back, and you should save yourself a future catastrophe. I would still recommend changing this belt at some point, but as I say, I've got 300 hours on this, and there's not a single mark or anything on any of these teeth, as you can see. So this is not a new belt by any means. This is the original belt. But yes, I did notice that after the fourth flight or so, I was just inspecting it, and I noticed this phenomenon occurring, and I realized that the belt just wasn't tight enough. So if you're not going to do the gear mod, the gear conversion, at least slot your motor, pull it tight, tighten it down, and as you spin the motor, make sure that this is engaging properly, and you shouldn't have an issue. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.